Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Bader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hey friends, Jason here. In this episode, I had the opportunity to catch up with Alton Mullins, CEO of 712 Management. 712 is an association management firm, serves clients from distribution and manufacturing to clinical health professionals. As you will hear in our session, Molly has an amazing work ethic and possesses this clarity about what it means to serve her client associations. Like several industries, association management felt the world shift during the pandemic. Meetings and events, which many see as the primary benefit of association membership, was suddenly cast on its ear. Rather than crying their cornflakes about the injustice of the pandemic, 712 found this to be a unique opportunity to strengthen their entire value proposition to their client base. They learned what really worked for their clients and where they could help mitigate challenges. Rather than pining away for the good old days, they currently embrace the new balance of member interaction and value-added service. I enjoyed gaining a better understanding of the association world, and I hope you do too. This episode was brought to you by my friends at Profit2. A couple of years ago, I was introduced to Profit2 through a client who had been working with them for over a year. This client had been struggling with improving gross margins and was looking for a service to help them recapture some of their lost opportunities. Through their work with Profit2, it took about a year, but they were able to bump their gross margins by almost 2 points. For this distributor, and frankly for anyone in the business, this margin enhancement was a big deal. Beyond the pricing service, Profit2 has started helping clients look at cost and rebate management. If you want to discover hidden margin opportunities, come take a look at what Profit2 can do for you. Learn more at www.distributiontalk.com/profit2. That's profit with a number 2. All right. Well, hey, Molly, welcome to Distribution Talk. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me.
Well, thank you, Jason. I'm thrilled to be with you and to see you yet again, even though we're not in person.
Very true. Yes. And we just talked about, we just missed each other at the UID event. Hopefully that was very successful for you all and you were very happy with the outcome.
It was great. It was great to get close to 600 distributors all together in a room, learning from each other, all different industries, but essentially the same types of challenges, the same types of opportunities. So we love doing that event. Now, Indianapolis in March is maybe not my favorite place or location, but outside of that, it's one of our favorite events that we put on together.
Oh, it was beautiful. Sunday was gorgeous there. It was crazy.
Sunday was. A few of the others weren't.
And then you came on Monday. So
yes,
you
exactly.
did not get that.
Exactly.
All right. Fair enough. I like Indianapolis. I think it's a nice city. There's a lot more there than most people would have thought. So
there absolutely is.
Yeah. So if you wouldn't mind, one of the things I love to do in this show is talk a little bit about background and so people get to know you a little bit better. So how did you get involved with association management? Maybe did you have any distribution experience prior to this? Please, the floor is yours.
I've learned my distribution experience as I've gone, and I've had some wonderful mentors in that process. I actually started in politics, is what I started in political fundraising, and that dovetailed pretty quickly into association management and government affairs and things like that. So been in associations now for about 20 years, working in standalones, and now with 712 Management, which is an association management company. So I get to kind of marry the best of both worlds there. I get to run trade associations and other organizations, plus we're running a business. So it's that side of it that's really important to our team as well, as to make sure that our company's profitable and makes our clients profitable. I've been with 712 now for about six and a half years and loving every minute of it.
Yeah, I remember when that whole transition went down. It was interesting. It was kind of exciting. If you wouldn't mind, just tell me how that happened. How did you all the Thompsons were wonderful people. They were really good to me as I was starting into my career. If you wouldn't mind, just share a little bit about that transition.
Joe and Kristen Thompson started Thompson Management Associates back in 1993. It was their baby, in addition to their 3 beautiful children. They couldn't have been more gracious people to work with and work for. I was hired in 2016 as part of a succession plan for our largest client that Joe Thompson was managing and had for about 25 years. So coming in, it was a different face and a different gender and a different age and all those sorts of different things.
Yes, for sure.
I worked with NAHAD primarily at the time, and my board of directors embraced me and taught me so much. And I worked with Joe and Kristen for a good year and a half during the transition. So Talbot G, who is a dear friend and in the distribution world, who you and many know. So he and I, for the past 3.5 years, have been working together to grow the company, and I'm pretty proud of it. So it's been a wild little ride, but it's been fun.
So what does 712 mean? with the name? Give me the name. Help me out with this.
So we have a couple different ways we describe it. If you ask me what 712 means, I will tell you it's 7 days a week, 12 months out of the year.
Oh, very good. Okay, there you go.
Origins of it is Talbot G, our owner, all 3 of his daughters were born at 7 pounds, 12 ounces. So that is actually what 712 stands for.
Fair enough. Okay, interesting. Fun fact, Talbot G and I share the same birthday.
There you go.
We found that. It was really funny. We were sitting in a class together. He and I were doing this facilitation course together. We're sitting next to each other, and neither of us really wanted to be there. There was some silly exercise. Literally only 10 people in this little group, this 5-day class. And it came to birthdays for some reason. And you're raising your hand. And then he and I started looking at 3 of us had the same birthday out of 10 people. It was weird. There's no way. Those odds are just astronomical. So
yeah, I don't even know how you would figure out what those would be.
It was so weird, just a strange day. And so now every October 16th, he and I will trade text messages, and I give him a bad time about people thinking he's much older.
Clearly.
So those types of things. So I have to dig on him every once in a while in a podcast. So this is one of my favorite things to do. Beyond that, okay, let's get past that. So one of the things I was kind of curious about is how someone enters this. Now, I know you said you came from the government affairs side, but how do they get into association management? Or how do you see most people enter your organization or others?
If you ask anyone in my immediate family what I do for a living, no one can describe it. No one really exactly knows what it is.
I truly understand that, Molly. I really do.
I'm sure you do. Yeah. And there is no major. There's no college major for association management. Right. So it's something that you learn as you go. The key factors that I see in it is relationship focused. So if you are someone who likes to build relationship and rapport with individuals, this is not a commodity sales business. This is really that long-term strategic approach on how you benefit a company, how you benefit an individual, and what you bring to the table as such. And if you're that kind of person who values that, you're the kind of person who likes constant interaction, varied day to day, then this is an awesome type of business and industry for you to be in. So we're different than a standalone trade association. I look at some of my standalone trade associations and I'm a little jealous of them.
Definitely.
I wish I could focus a little more of my time.
Absolutely.
But my clients also pay for a staff of 25, 30 people at a fraction of the cost. So there's definitely benefits to AMCs that we're seeing more and more business come our way. And it's a super great time and opportunity for us.
How many associations were under management when 712 took over the business from the Thompsons?
Sure. We transitioned in the middle of 2017 I took this role in January of 2018.
Okay.
Since that time, we've doubled in clients and we've doubled in staff.
Yeah.
So it's been a huge growth trajectory for us. Part of it was we wanted to diversify. I love distribution. I love manufacturing. Those are my favorite clients on the planet. Always will be. There's quite a few other businesses out there. And we wanted to get into the medical society field, foundation field, other types of industries and things like that. So we take that strategic approach to grow our portfolio because then it allows us to expand benefits and services to benefit those different types of genres. So that's what we've done, right, wrong, or indifferent. We're kind of tired. It's been a busy couple of years, but through COVID and all on top of all that.
Right.
But here we are and we're stronger because of it.
Certainly a challenge this last couple of years. And you have expanded in this last couple of years. I think that's the interesting part from a casual observer. We would say, oh my God, this has got to be brutal for association and a management firm like yours. Not being able to interact face-to-face and not being able to do events. Events is perceived as one of those huge value propositions of an association, a trade association. So how did you all weather the storm, or was there any fear of this thing going under at that point?
I sat in my office alone with my office manager. We joke about it today in March and April, and he would be like, "You're going to be okay." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" Everyone, I think, was nervous then. It's no different than your business, Jason. It's your job is to interact with clients, to be on the road. That's what we do. That's what we love. 712 does 30 to 40 meetings, conventions, conferences a year. So that is a big lifeblood of what we do. And it was very disconcerting. I looked at our membership department. I said, listen, our renewal rates at the end of 2020 for 2021 is going to tell us how our future is going to be. And not only did we retain our members, we grew our memberships.
Right.
They felt this connection. They felt this value. They felt this need. to belong to this group that they were a part of for so long, and they paid those checks. And we can't thank them enough for it. And it kept us going. And we started in-person events back in June of 2021 and haven't stopped since. So we believe in it. Our members want it. So we keep on going.
So what did you learn though out of this time? For me, at least, I learned that I could perform a lot of what I did before through this type of medium, digital medium, using Zoom and whatnot. And I learned that there are different ways to interact with clients. And that was just something that I now taken forward. What did you really take away from that experience that you feel like you all are going to be a better firm going forward?
Well, I think we learned, just like you're saying, that there are different opportunities to interact. There are different ways to train. We were blessed to have really ramped up our online training opportunities for our clients in 2019. So we were kind of prepared for that transition by sheer luck, to be honest. But what I also learned is that our events are never going to go away. Your face-to-face interaction, you're never going to replace. But I will tell you that I look at conventions a lot differently now than I did 2 years ago. And I don't want to hire speakers to just sit in an audience and talk to my members. Like they're there to interact with each other. They want to learn, but they want to talk and they want to engage and they want to be asked questions. And I see that kind of audience interaction different nowadays.
Yeah.
They want the opportunities to do workshops and to hear from their peers and to learn facts and things like that. And they want to engage and they want to touch and feel and laugh and love and do all those sorts of things because they don't ever want to lose it again. And I really, really feel that in the events that we've done, I've seen that time and time again.
Well, I think the days, again, growing up, being involved in a distribution association and seeing the lecturing speaker, the non-workshop speaker that you were talking about, maybe it is time that those kind of go by the wayside. And frankly, they're expensive. I mean, let's say, those folks, the pros are really, really expensive. And if they're not interacting and they're not giving some sort of experience to that member, what's the point?
And Jason, I've seen you a lot of times at UID and other events where we work together, and you bring an energy to the room, you bring a humor to it, you bring what are the takeaways that we can bring home? Where is this applicable in your life? Whether it's your own personal development, whether it's your business strategy, people need that. It's great to be inspired. It's great to learn a great story, but people want more that they go home with now because they're investing more time and resources. So people value their time a lot more now than I think they did a couple years ago. I see that reflected in what they're willing to commit to.
I agree. There was a very, very popular speaker in the distribution world, hyper intelligent, and I'm not going to call him out right here. It's not a good thing, but I remember him saying that he's always been accused of speaking at a very high 10,000 foot level. And he would say that if I can reach 10% of that audience, I've done my job. And that always bothered me. I always felt like you're not being of service at that point. For me, my preference is the 90%. I want to touch them. And if there's 10% that are bored, well, go find something else. I always felt that when we were up there and when we get in front of an audience, we were there to engage with as many as humanly possible. I want people to be able to walk away with that tangible thing that they can go try at home or something to discuss with others, not to try to baffle them with my brilliance, if there is that, but I never really understood that mentality.
No, I 100% agree with it. You see more people walk through the audience, introduce themselves, connect eye to eye, ask questions. That engagement is what we crave as humans. I like to see that in our events and in spaces that we create for our clients and our members.
I think it's more fun too. It's absolutely more fun for us, for me at least. I love doing that. I think that there is that some people will try to put themselves on a pedestal when they're up there on that. And it's silly. It's like, no, come on, let's just go talk to these people. They're great people. And that's one of the things I do love about distribution in my world is really great people, wonderful, salt of the earth types of people that are involved with that. So
I can't agree with you more. I say to new staff when they come in, preparing them for a convention and things like that. And when I know they're about to go to NAHAD or something like that, like these are the most wonderful people you're going to meet. They're going to become your friends. They're going to send you a Christmas card. They're going to thank you for the opportunity. And to me, that makes us even more indebted to making sure that we provide them an experience that meets their expectations because they are so gracious in the process. And we want to give them something that is of value to them. So even this year, when people have got challenges and manufacturers can't deliver and all the things that everybody's facing, we're still in it together. It's still the business that we love. And we're still going to, continue to focus and see how we can drive the economy forward. So we're just trying to take the positive spin and put one foot in front of the other.
You're going to get a lot of hugs. You got to prepare them for the hugs.
Absolutely.
It's just the way it is. These are hugging, loving people. So for sure. So one of the big things, and again, you have this diversity of clientele, which I think is really fantastic, that you can see trends and you can see different things that tend to work. What is kind of one of the big things that you see across the board that really all of these gathering associations, what are they really looking for? What do they want out of the relationship, not only with you, really anyone who serves that audience?
They're looking, I think, for a number of things. First and foremost is to be informed, to make sure that they have the information that they need to answer a question intelligently, to forecast as best as any of us can, to have just, these are the things that are happening. These are the things that are affecting you. We've had some discussions with one of my clients as far as what's the difference between putting out best practices and opinion papers, and also just sharing members' experiences, because there's value in both. I can't speak to a member and say, hey, yeah, that's gospel because it happened to you. But there can be another member that gleans from that information benefit. So how do you provide those forums that allow people to talk and problem share, but then also provide them the resources that can help them solve it? What do you do if? This is how you prepare for X, those kind of things. So I see a lot of that, a ton of training. That is one of the biggest things that our members are wanting from a workforce development standpoint more than anything else. Is if you're investing in your employee, that employee is going to stay with you, even if, it's 6 months longer. You're doing anything you can to stop that turnover, to keep that warehouse full, that sort of thing. So what can we provide that really gives them those opportunities? A lot of what we do is safety related and handling opportunities and logistics and things like that for various clients. So when you understand that, you're more apt to work more efficiently, faster, all those sorts of things. So a lot of that. And then just the networking connectivity. I see it in my world amongst my association peers to be able to share and say, hey, how was this experience with X? I need this kind of a resource. I'm having these issues, to really give them those forums. That's what we're all in this for. So that's what associations I feel provide, is that community that you get excited to see. We joke about this on site. The relationships that you make, they're that much more intense. And I don't know why it is. You see it amongst your memberships. Those 4 days on site might be like they've been on vacation for 2 weeks together. So it strengthens those business opportunities. It strengthens those relationships. And they wouldn't have it if we didn't provide the opportunities that we did.
Right. Absolutely agree. I don't know if you knew this. I was involved on the board of StaffDev when I was the president of StaffDev at a very young age. And my business partner, he was a StaffDev president as well, a couple of years behind me. And so that's really how we found each other 25 plus years ago. And so again, it's that connection and that comfort level. And I can literally reach out to people that I was on a board of directors 20 plus years ago, and we can just start up a conversation in minutes. It's instant. And I think that connection is so important. And I think one of the things that we learned over the last couple of years is how much we miss that and how much we crave that connection, that face-to-face connection. This is a nice substitute. It is, but it's not the same thing. It just is not the same thing. So.
It is. It totally isn't. Jason, if I may ask you talk to various distributors throughout everything. How are they feeling things are coming around now? How is it, whether it's the supply chain challenges, whether it's what they're doing with their customers? What are you hearing from distributors as far as the next 6-12 months?
So most of them had very strong revenue and strong profitability. Frankly, inflation is a wonderful time to raise prices. Now, it's a wonderful time to make more money. And most of them have run into that. I did recently hear from one that's nervous, that's saying we're possibly going to go into recession. And I don't hope to see that, but I'm not an economist. That's not my world. But I try to explain to them that prepare yourself as if, but don't take your foot off the gas. I think that's one of the things that scares me the most. I will say, though, there's a lot of fear around employment and employee development, as you just talked about, and being able to attract people. And this is a huge topic, is attracting people into the industry, whatever vertical you may be in. So that's a huge one. How do we attract new blood into it? And ultimately, I think this is where you all can come in, is really to help them structure that and to structure their, not only the recruiting efforts, but what do you do when you get them? What do you do when you onboard them? How do you cement them in the career? I think that once somebody gets into the progression and can see a future, they're in. It's like the mafia. They're never getting out. That's the way it is. But those are kind of the big things that I see, at least, that I'm hearing from my clients. That's the fear of losing people. And it's around people management. It's not products. Now, supply chain, yes. Are we nervous about that? Of course we are. And that's a bummer, but it is not the people. And the people, that's what makes these companies great. It's not the stuff. Stuff on the shelves comes and goes. It's really that people side. And so again, this is where I love to see associations look at that and say, how can we help solve that problem? The stuff on the shelves and those types of things and some of the operational tactical stuff, I don't think that's really where you all can provide value. So that's just my take on it.
That's very fair.
Yeah. I would love to see associations to kind of recognize those challenges as much as humanly possible and provide vehicles really for an HR forum or training people in things that they don't really know very well. Distributors are really good at selling stuff. They can pick stuff, they can sell stuff, they can talk to a client. But as far as the internals, running their finances or onboarding and relationships and communicating nicely and playing well with others and crucial conversations, that's where that's hard. And really, this is where they need outside help. They need counselors. They need people to come in. And honestly, I play a lot of that role. That's a lot of what I do as a business therapist. It's kind of what I get into. So, yeah.
I often joke that about 30-40% of my job is managing people's emotions. So I totally understand. So we all do, right?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, if I could go back to the diversity of your organization. Again, I think going from the distribution, manufacturing roots, plus the yacht brokers, and to, more, and you said getting into the medical side, and the clinical psychologist was one of the newer ones that run. So each time you bring in one of these new associations, I imagine there's a bit of a learning curve and you'll learn a little bit more about them. But what is something that you may have learned from one of your newer clients that now you can bring into some of the other places?
When you get a new client, it's not because that they've had the most rosiest of past management. So they come to you because they want to change. They're not coming to you because they're in a great marriage and life is perfect, right? So we know that. So our goal, and it's a delicate balance because you want to offer change, you want to offer new opportunity, but you want to be respectful of their roots, their origins, and their primary mission. And that first year is always a difficult balance because we focus a lot on innovation technology. Our staff is young. They're very social media focused. Everything's data analytics. And if you're talking to a board that's never had that, it can sometimes be off-putting and overwhelming. So how do we balance the two of those and balance a networking breakfast they've been doing forever somewhere versus online forums that they should be launching? So we spend a lot of time trying to understand what really has been successful for them and then showing to them what we've been able to do for other clients that we can replicate for them. And while everybody's different, every industry is different. Yacht brokers killed it this past year, by the way, because nobody could find a boat to buy. Everybody wanted boats.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, they crushed it. Yeah. That was a good year, a good couple of years for them. Yeah.
Good financial year for them. But at the end of the day, everybody is looking for training. Everyone's looking for people. Everyone wants to retain. Everyone wants to grow. Everyone wants to improve margin. It doesn't matter if you're selling hoses, you're selling flowers, or you're helping people with medical trauma. It's the same things that you need. So that's what we're able to replicate across the board for our clients and provide those services. We just got to make sure that they're comfortable with those elements of change. And now people are much more apt to it than they were. It is an easier curve than a couple of years ago, but it's so you want to make sure that you're listening to what they've done well and then offering them new solutions for the problems as they arise.
Interesting. And I imagine as you do expand, that it does get more comfortable and you can start to see patterns, not only in onboarding, but when, let's say, one of your traditional distribution clients, somebody talks about mentorship and it's like, oh, wait a minute, I know these guys, this one over here worked on mentorship. Again, you can cross-pollinate pretty easily across these different associations.
So mentorship is one of those crucial elements for retention. And the biggest problem that we see across the board is the mentor and the mentee think that the other party wants something different than what they actually want. So we will have a lot of mentors say, younger generations just want to talk to me. I don't know their tech. I don't know that. Where the mentee's going, yeah, I don't want to talk to you about that. I know that. But I want to know about sales strategies for 30 plus years and how you're able to build this business. So it's really getting them to iron out what they're trying to receive from the other party. And that's where the value comes in. And if you can really outline that strategy, build that program and know that it's a multi-touch point. This isn't just getting together at a convention and sharing a cocktail.
Right.
This is checking in. How are you doing? How was business this month? Tell me what your growth strategy is. Tell me what personal development you've done. Hey, I got a story to tell with you about a client problem that I had. And really ironing out what that conversation looks like so that when they hang up the phone or leave that meeting or whatever they're doing, they took that value back with them. And I actually say mentors say they get as much from it as the mentees do, learning where everybody's coming from.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. I would agree that the mentor thinks that they are just imparting wisdom and that's it. They're just basically throwing up their life experiences to this young, fresh face. They're totally missing the opportunity there. The mentor absolutely should be learning as much. And I think, are you talking more about that mentorship among members or are you talking about more inside the individual member organization?
Normally our mentor programs are within the trade association specifically. and then we'll mentor within varying companies. So we would pick from different companies that are varying planes in the field, be 2 distributors, but perhaps not at the same company. They could do that more themselves so that they can hear from voices outside of their own companies.
I think it's interesting looking at it really from the association levels. So got to be some fear associated with opening the kimono too far with a potential competitor, I guess. Even though they may be geographically separated and do a few different things, there's got to be a little bit of fear associated with that type of sharing.
It is, but it's a lot less than it used to be, which is great to see.
Mm-hmm.
I have on some of my boards multi-billion-dollar competitors. And we don't talk price, but we're sitting there talking about, hey, when do you think supply chain challenges are going to lessen? And they'll be like, a year from now, and they'll share that. And then someone will say, well, I'm having more issues with this. What are you doing to combat that? So I see that a ton more. I mean, I see it in my space amongst my CEO colleagues. Is I'll be at an event and I'll say, are you thinking about raising prices for your contracts this year? Again, this isn't antitrust violations. We're sharing the pain points that we experience as competitors. We bid the same business over and over again. So what my value is what I bring to the table. By talking to a competitor about our challenges ain't going to change my value. It's just going to learn more to make us both benefit from it. So I don't know. I think there's nothing better than healthy competition. And I think you can't learn from anybody that's not doing what you're doing.
Totally agree. And I've found personally that the more I was open in those forums, that the more I received. I think anybody's going to tell you that same thing, but there are definitely, and I'm sure you've met them on the boards, that are a little tighter to the vest and a little more fearful of that. But then there's the ones that everything's on the...
They're also ready to sell their company too.
Yeah, exactly. They're just tightening up. I don't know if I'm ready for that.
They're looking for a buyer.
And that's really funny because, boy, you see them and then I hate to say it sometimes, I look at them and go, you are not ready to sell this thing yet. This is just not ready to go. So going back to that mentorship, I think it is fascinating to watch that, especially with your boards. And I suspect that's probably where a lot of that really great networking does occur. And it's one of those things that we need to encourage more of and really teach how to do this. That's something that I've seen, Molly, over the different clients I serve and really the observations I make is mentorship's misunderstood. The structure is misunderstood. Everybody thinks they would like to have a mentorship program inside their organization, but they just don't know how to do it. I had one of your board members on fairly recently, and we talked about mentorship and where that worked and that played in his organization. But I still got the sense that it was something that it took them a very long time to formalize because they really didn't have a structure to that. They didn't know how to go down that trail.
I think that's totally fair. And I think that's what helps being an association management company is when we can come up with a formula. And I have an education manager who this is a main part of her job. How do you replicate that for each individual client? It's going to be different. It's going to look different for clinical hypnosis expert as it is for a, wholesale florist. But that are those commonalities. What are the frequencies that'll make it effective? So that's kind of one of the benefits we bring to the table is to have that kind of opportunity.
Absolutely. And you all can help them formalize these plans. And that's, again, having many different voices to call on to do that. So before we wrap, I wanted to ask one thing is really the value proposition of a board member. Why should people raise their hand? This is something I do ask quite a few people because I do interview a lot of people that are on boards of their associations. And I ask them the same question. Why did you choose to serve? And what do you get out of that? So again, from you seeing a lot of different boards and the diversity of different people that have raised their hand and said, yes, I want to help. Why do they do it?
I might have a different answer for that than others because I'm very specific about this with the boards I work with is at the end of the day, when you leave a board, I want you to get more value out of it than you actually put into it. And I know that seems odd because you're volunteering your service and you think that you're here to contribute, which is lovely, but I want you to take more value back. And I say that to my presidents. I say it to every board member is those strategic conversation. Don't talk about cocktail napkin colors for the party, for God's sake. Talk about what the top issues are affecting your business. Tell me what kind of educational sessions would benefit you. What kind of roundtable forums are helpful? Let me know financially what you think makes sense from a liability perspective. Those are the things you talk about at a board level. I say it all the time. It's governance structure, it's fiduciary responsibility, it's strategic oversight. That's the contribution that we need as a staff. We got the rest. So tell me what within those conversations is of value to you and your business. And at the end of your 3-year term, you walk out of there. One of my favorite things is when I have a board member go, I'll do a board term, but I'm never going to become president. I don't ever join the executive committee. I'm not putting in the extra time, right?
Right.
At the end of their 3 years, they're like, well, what does that look like? Then I go, great. They've gotten the value that I wanted them to get out of this. So that's the best compliment I can get.
Absolutely. And I've found that, again, with my personal experience, very rarely do people leave their 3-year term saying, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm done with that. It's like all of a sudden you're the has-been. You get the little ribbon that says past president or something like that. You're not as shiny anymore. It's so fun.
My past presidents, I always say, please don't disappear. It doesn't mean you can't remain involved. I would love opinions on the best way to engage former leadership in associations, because that is somewhere I 100% fail.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the right mechanism is. So any group that does that well, I would always love to learn from.
For sure. It is interesting. They do tend to fade. And sometimes you recycle them. You get to bring them back in the fold. But you're right. They do fade. And there is a lot of experience they could bring back. There was a horrible, not really a statistic, but more of a habit that past presidents of staff of the association, we either died, sold our business, or just did something else.
Yeah.
And so it was really funny. The curse of the past president is they would be out of the industry within 2 years or something like that. So
no, and it's a dance, because you want to have somebody who you know is not retiring the next year and those sorts of things. But my volunteers, I've been a really lucky girl with that. There are so many that I text them more than my friends about work or life or any of the things, because they're just such a wonderful group of people to work with.
Sure. And I've watched boards interact, especially as I've suggested with Talbot. I've watched that board interact with him, harass him constantly, and they've become very close. They're very funny and pulling pranks on one another. It's wonderful. And these are relationships that are going to go for a very, very long time.
Yeah, best part of the gig, without question.
Yeah, absolutely. So if somebody is hanging out and they've seen it, they maybe gone to a couple events, how do they volunteer? Obviously it's going to be different in each one of your groups, but how do they get involved?
That's always the hardest part, is that first step for somebody to be like, hey, what do I do? I actually did this with a group that I'm a part of for association management companies. I sent an email and was like, I'd like to get involved in what you think makes sense. I'm not saying I want to be president of the organization tomorrow, but where would I be? Where could I be helpful? Right. Whether it's a committee or getting them. A lot of times, honestly, for educational materials, we need experts to review that, to make sure our online training modules are saying things the right way. And we are translating one of our fabrication guides for one of my clients into Spanish. And I'm using guys in their shop to review and make sure that I'm using the right terminology and things like that. So you don't have to join a board to contribute and get involved and offer back to your industry. And then once you start doing that, then you meet more people who are doing other things, and then you're in and you know what you want to do next. I'd start with an email. Any ED would be happy to get one.
I share that with a lot of people. There's a fear. Like, well, only this type of company can be part of that. There's definitely a fear and there's a barrier. And if I can do anything to just help open that up a little bit and say, just reach out. You all are dying for help. Dying for people to say, oh, can I help you? You'll get an email back very, very quickly.
Very quickly, yes.
You'll get a response as fast as humanly possible. So, well, good.
Yes.
Well, Molly, thank you so much for taking the time with me. Truly appreciate you sharing a little bit about, and maybe pulling back the curtain a little bit about association management, because I think there is some misunderstanding about what you all do and the value proposition that you bring to it. Those on the boards who have been involved, they understand it a little bit better. But the folks in the member companies don't always understand what you all do.
Right.
They understand the do side, but they just don't know what you do. And so I appreciate you sharing some of this with the listeners today.
Well, thank you, Jason, for having me and for keeping distribution in the forefront of people's minds and letting people know what a tremendous business that is and how crucial it is to the entire U.S. economy. I don't know if people realize that as well as much. So I think that that's an important message for you to be sharing.
I appreciate that. All right, you take care, and I look forward to the next time our paths cross.
So hopefully soon. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider sharing with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast application. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by the brilliant team at the Creative Imposter Studios. This episode was brought to you by Connected Peers. Connected Peers is a new organization dedicated to providing fast-paced monthly networking opportunities for distribution industry managers. To learn more about how Connected Peers can bring solutions to your role, visit us on the web at www.connectedpeers.com.